We're turning back to the Women's World Cup, joined in studio by the FAI Hall of Famer, former Ireland international Linda Gorman. Good morning to you, Linda.
Morning, guys.
Great to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Any excuse to get you in, to be honest with you. It was suggested during the week, Ireland are out, will we get Linda in? Absolutely. Action continues afoot. Just to remind people, if they haven't seen it so far, that Spain went through to the semis after extra time earlier on, beating the Netherlands 2-1 with that winner in extra time. It was 1-1 after normal time. And Japan and Sweden is continuing in front of us here, 23 minutes in, and it's 0-0. A couple of chances on either side, but 0-0, and we'll keep you up to speed on that. Can I just ask you, first of all, just when you put everything in the mixer, Linda, it was sort of unthinkable in some ways pre-season that we'd be at this stage, the last 8, with no USA, Canada, Germany. Australia have been grand. England is sort of the same, and it feels really open.
It does, really, and that possibly could be because of the 32 teams coming in, because we didn't know we were going on the rankings. We really didn't know what talent was out there in other countries. So that's really closed the gap between the high-ranked teams now and they were prior to the World Cup. So I think it's such an exciting time to be able to see all these new teams coming in and how the level of women's football has risen so high in countries that we wouldn't have given a second thought to, except in the Olympics, because I'd seen Japan in the Olympics and I never stay up for games other than anything got to do with the Irish, whether it's hockey, snooker, doesn't matter, I'll stay up all night. But I happened to be watching the Japanese, I think it was in the last Olympics. I was so impressed with them, so impressed. Now,
and a lot of people are feeling that this is their time now.
Yeah, they won it once before, I think it was 2011. They look to me, they're the most impressive team I've seen so far across the board. When I'm talking about a team, I'm talking about every single player. Like they have stars in it, but they also have great depth on the bench. Sweden have come within a hair's breadth, as you were praising Japan to the hilt, Linda, that it came within a hair's, Blackstenius, with a hair's breadth of burying one from close range. But no,
the commentators cursed there almost.
It nearly was. They have had, it must be said, and it was like a little bit of a defensive slip there. It was a huge chance, and Sweden have had chances here.
Yeah, it looks as if they've had they seem to have the aerial prowess over the Japanese so far, but Japanese are very adaptable. They seem to be able to change their game, the style they play, to suit the opposition, to counteract any attacks the opposition might possibly have, and that's one of the things I love about them. And they play to their strengths. They're great at, even though they're small, they're great at using their body against stronger teams. And the amount of speed they have from start to finish is, it's probably the best I've seen in the World Cup.
They have a physicality that seems to belie their smaller stature, for sure. They seem to be one of the more physical teams in the World Cup, considered.
Well, you see, it doesn't look physical, and they don't look as if they're giving away fouls, like obvious fouls, but they're great at using their body, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, they're smart about it.
Yeah.
There's no real team taking a lead like England, were I guess scrappy and disappointing in some regards in the game against Nigeria.
Lucky.
But lucky is probably the perfect word.
That's the word I would use, lucky, and looked very vulnerable to me. They got the chance. Of course, you have to admire them. 10 players and playing for such a length of time. Silly mistake by James, premeditated in my eyes, because the length of time it took her to get off the ground, and she was such an asset when she was brought on and when she started with him, because I think she had 3 goals and 2 assists, or 2 goals and 3 assists, but she was really effective and she looked great. Just things got the better of her. I don't know, maybe they'll bring in Toon now to step in for her, but I don't think Tuna would be as effective as James is.
The red mist just seemed to set in for her. She's a young player, obviously a big star on the scene now for England. This conversation has started up about whether, and like in classic sort of following England fashion, when they get to the final or whatever it might be, semi-final, that obviously it's a 1-game ban. No question that she comes back into the team if they progress.
Well, I don't know if there's a question or not, because I think one of the other teams player, I think she was a foul against Canadian player Lawrence.
Right.
She got a three-match
ban, right?
Yeah, 3-match ban. So it's really hard to say. But if she comes in, I mean, she's going to be on tender hooks now.
Yeah.
Because the eye is on her now for everything on and off the ball.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't change her style, and I hope she sort of doesn't let her affect her as much.
You could nearly get into a mindset of, because she's been out publicly, she's tweeted to say, oh listen, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done it, and it was, like you say, it was probably premeditated.
Petulant.
In the sense that, like, that second beforehand the red mist set in, and she did, and she's obviously very apologetic about it, but you could easily see a situation where she then goes out the next day and she's nearly trying to put too much right.
Yeah, but you know, you hope that she'll just settle into her game and not let her affect her, and maybe get into the same mindset as she had when she does play, because she is so good for the English side. She's made such a difference because they've been mediocre across the board, and they are in a very, I don't mean, you know, very, but they are in a section where it's not as competitive. They haven't had the really tough games that you'd have in the other section. You know,
I guess Nigeria have almost set the blueprint for how to beat England. I know they didn't get over the line, but like, by the woodwork and some brilliant saves by Mary Earps.
Oh, Mary Earps.
Nigeria were there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't everybody in Nigeria on the Nigerian team. It was just the players who stand out and have been standing out throughout their group stages that have shown what it can do if you get England. And that's why I actually thought in the Euros, if we'd have got there, we could have been able to do something.
I mean,
you know?
look, we're going to pour over this every single time we talk about it, but if only we'd have been in that game on Monday, we would have had a great chance, wouldn't we? Every chance.
Yeah, and we would have risen. They would have stepped up a gear now because the experience, you know, and it's a time to let players loose. You know, just let them go and let them play.
From an Irish point of view.
From an Irish point of view, yeah.
I was watching Ruesha Littlejohn has a YouTube channel, and she puts up some stuff every now and then, and she wasn't allowed to post anything, I think, during the World Cup, but she was definitely taking some footage, and there was a little bit of one of the things she had put up last night, and I don't want to be reading too much into it because it could have been just a bit of a gag, but it was pre the Canada game, and one of the other players there was a tactics board in there with the red magnets on it for Canada and the green magnets for Ireland, and she had jokingly put all the green magnets right in front of the Irish goal in a park the busway, and then Canada, all the red magnets lined up around it, and it was definitely a bit tongue-in-cheek, but also maybe a bit pointed that, and I know that, like, the World Cup maybe was slightly different in that Ireland did actually go at it a little bit, in a sense that maybe they didn't before that, and we don't know about the future of the manager, of course, but what's your sense of, like, there's a tournament football for a country, and then there's a regular football for a country, in the sense that, like, we did see a slightly different Ireland, and I think people would like to see an awful lot more of that. Yeah,
but if we're up there with the best of them playing in these top tournaments, that we're going to be able to play at the standard that they play. It's like playing first division. If you always played first division and you never test yourself against higher teams, you don't know what you're capable of. And we showed that we have something, you know, when we played in the last game. We showed that we are able to create, we are able to go at teams if we're let loose, if for want of a better word. Because I for one of the times I've seen the Irish team actually get numbers up, because it had a knock-on effect. I believe that when you leave a lone player up and it's 4 against 1, you haven't a hope. When it's 4 against 4, the odds change. It's 50%, and you don't need a 5 against 4 in favour of you, because you might have somebody who's technically skillful and who can just knock the ball to side and go for goal. But we need to be focused on having shots on goal. It's back on
it'll be interesting to see if, and I mean, by all accounts, if you listen to the Straws in the Wind, when there's potentially a new manager in there, and, like, it'll be put back in the players at that point. Sweden have scored 1-0, a bit of a skirmish in the box, just over half an hour gone, and they've buried it home from close range. A bit of a skirmish in the box. Japan failed to clear it, and against the odds, Sweden have taken the lead. Interesting stuff. This will be the Japan players are getting a bit of a huddle here,
trying to gather themselves.
But did Japan go 1 down against Norway?
Did they? And came back.
Yeah. It
was a free in from about 30-40 yards out
with a weak punch.
Failed to be cleared.
Bobbles around.
Bit of a skirmish bobbling around. Really should have been cleared. Shouldn't
Very
it?
nice.
Should have
1970s.
definitely.
Get rid of it. You're not messing around there. The 2 or 3 Japan players had the chance to boot that into Rosette.
Yeah, you see, the idea when you're back there is height, width and distance when you're trying to clear a ball.
Yeah.
Because as you've seen there, it wasn't cleared high enough that it came back off a player.
Yeah, and maybe the keeper could have been out a bit quicker as well. But anyway, that's probably exactly what that game needs, is a Sweden goal. And let's see what Japan are made of now, because after giving them the big up, they can't possibly go out of the tournament now.
I hope not, because there's just such
so
an
good.
impressive team all round. Absolutely great.
Although Sweden win it, then would, like, because we're always looking at it through the Irish lens, we'd be like, we could have beaten them twice in the we didn't, but we could have beaten them twice
Amanda Elishstedt, by the way, is the goal scorer. For Arsenal,
she scored as well previously in the other game. She scored.
Well,
You know.
it'll be interesting to see now, do they keep at it, Sweden, because they certainly have had chances up to this, or do they sit back? We'll see, and we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep you up to speed on it. Just one last word on the England stuff, and Colombia obviously tomorrow. Nigeria went after, as we discussed, went after England. They could have, and I believe should have, had a penalty in the second half that was it actually maybe even in extra time, where that would have seen them through. There was a bit of a barge into the back of one of the players. The Colombia game could follow a similar pattern, in the sense that they follow a similar path tactically. They can be cagey when needs be, but are equally happy to go for it, Colombia.
Yeah, and what I think with England is, if England can sustain the physicality of the Colombians, and they have it all over, and they're not willing to pull any punches, they'll go with them. If they can match the physicality, they should come out a group. Like, if you look on paper, they should really come out a group, but they're not playing well enough for me.
England,
not playing well enough, and they're a bit dodgy at the back. But the Colombians are very strong in midfield, and they've a superb little 18-year-old up front, very calm and collected. And it's great to see the 18-year-olds, because they express themselves. All the young players.
Abby Larkin was another.
Like you can see the creativity in them, and there's no pressure in front of the goal. I suppose probably a young thing, before they drill it into you.
Ciara Walsh being back for England was a big one. I know she didn't do much in the Nigeria game, but to have her as an option there is certainly a bonus. Yeah,
it's like having Kerr, it just lifts the team, and it definitely is a bonus, because some of the players are not performing, in my eyes, the way they did in the Euros.
I was just interested in your comment about, like, the England being a bit flat, and like it's nearly they're losing time here in terms of trying to grow into the tournament a bit. Like, I mean, it's going to have to be a real about turn from where they've been at up to this point. And then, like, you look at Australia and France, and you can sort of make similar cases in the sense of being not quite maybe what we might have expected from both of them, but at the same time there are little green shoots appearing maybe on both sides to suggest that the run has started.
Yeah, but if you look at for me, I look at Spain, and Spain were very dodgy in the beginning, and they've grown into the game, and now they're in the semis. England very dodgy to start, and then were exceptional, and then they've gone back another little bit. So I think if Colombia, get at them and go at them, and they're not afraid to attack, as you said, they will definitely give them a run for the money. I think England might do it, but I'm hopeful Colombia does.
I think it's. Do you know what? Look, I know there's a constant old thing, but I actually love when England go deep in any of these tournaments.
Do you actually?
I genuinely like.
That's torture,
I found myself sort of with the men's team a few years ago, actually hoping they'd get over the line, because they're actually just appear to be a great group of like nice, good
Adrian,
group of players.
No.
Like. Yeah.
Well, no, Adrian, I have to agree with you, because when Ireland's out, I do root for England.
Yeah.
Or if not, I do. Yeah, I do. They're our nearest neighbours. Do you know what I mean? And our players play over there, and we watch them every week.
And it's also way more interesting for us to watch it, because we're watching them all the time and we're familiar with them. And like, there is an added. If England were not in the tournament from here on out, we'd be less interested in it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but it might. But then as soon you say that, it's easy to say that, guys. But then as soon as they win, you're like, oh no, actually, I didn't want this.
Not from the players, but I don't feel that from the players' point of view.
No, I don't feel it from the players. I feel it from the media. can't go back to 66, and I just can't do it for another century.
Yeah, no, I agree with that entirely. The aftermath, you'd have to accept the aftermath would be horrific.
Do you want to see Jack Grealish and Declan Rice bouncing down Wembley way with their medals?
Oh, two Irish lads winning the World Cup. I'm not being incendiary. I believe
this English team, this English team under Sharina Wiegman is probably likeable as well as Gareth Southgate's team. Like, I understand your point. There's a likeability factor that maybe wasn't there with previous English teams.
And it's just more interesting.
But I still wouldn't stretch it to say I want them to win.
I know you definitely wouldn't. But
you have to support them. They're beside us.
Talk to us about the other one that we haven't hugely touched on, Linda, just in relation to Australia-France in the other quarter tomorrow, and particularly like a bit of a fuss during the week in relation to Sam Kerr. Obviously her fitness has been a huge factor. It's been one of the main storylines of the World Cup, and a question comes up at the press conference, if she's fit, do you start Sam Kerr? Because it might cause a bit of disruption. You start Sam Kerr no matter what's going on, right, if she's fit?
Well, you have to start her, because it'd be crazy to put her on and then she gets injured and then she has to come off. It'd be better off to start her and see what you can get out of her. I think the French group have grown into the game. They're looking now classy. I think that they'll actually do Australia. I think they've enough players. Yeah, I think they've enough players, and Kerr is fantastic. If she doesn't get to supply, she's redundant. So I can see the defence of the French team. Renard's just smothering Kerr out, and she's so cool about it. It looks like it's just flowing over. And she started off pretty nervous in the first couple of games, but Renard has come into herself now, I think. Now she is, that might be one of the weak spots in her. She hasn't got the pace. She's lost a bit of pace.
So you're Australia out.
I think
you're not, because like you mentioned about growing into it, right? And they were obviously very lucky to get past us. They had the Nigeria defeat. They beat an awful, not a very good Canada team. Maybe they start to come into a little bit against Denmark, but you're not seeing that trajectory.
I'm seeing, no, I'm not. I'm seeing the French growing, and growing in confidence, and the number of players that can score goals and the way they're playing. The Canadians or the Australians don't seem to have enough across the board of talented players, skillful players, compared to the French. The French have a little bit of flair about them now, and there seems to be calm in the camp, happy chappies type
we'll
thing.
be holding you to this when Caitlin Ford scores 3 goals the weekend.
And our own home one,
Mary Foster.
Now again, you still have the little draw for anything that's related to Ireland in any way, shape or form.
Why not?
But France are a different kettle of fish. I think they play a different style of football anyway.
We will see. Linda, an absolute pleasure. We'll have the conversation again next week where we'll go, we'll get Linda in, and that's really always yes. So thanks a million.
You're very welcome.
Really enjoyed
Morning,
that.
guys.